I have lived nearly a century, and I have seen more high-Q people end up in the financial cemetery due to leverage than any other cause. Alcohol and ladies are dangerous, certainly, and they have ruined their fair share of men. But leverage is distinct because it is the only way a smart guy can go broke. If you are smart, and you are patient, and you do not use leverage, it is virtually impossible to destroy yourself financially. But the moment you introduce borrowed money into the equation, you introduce the risk of zero. And in capitalism, once you hit zero, you do not get to play anymore. The game is over. You are washed out of the system, leaving your capital behind for the people who were more patient than you. You tell yourselves that debt is leverage, using a fancy engineering term to dress up a very ugly reality. You read some MBA nonsense about good debt versus bad debt to justify buying a house you cannot afford or a car that depreciates faster than you can drive it off the lot. You convince yourself that you are optimizing your capital structure, that you are being efficient. But efficiency is the enemy of survival. Nature does not optimize for efficiency. Nature optimizes for durability. Your liver has a backup. You have 2 kidneys, not 1. That is redundant. That is inefficient. But it keeps you alive when one fails. When you use leverage, you are stripping away your redundancy. You are removing the shock absorbers from your life. You are driving a car with no suspension at 100 miles an hour over a road full of potholes. Eventually, you will hit a pothole. It is not a matter of if, it is a matter of when. Let us look at the history of this stupidity, because if you do not study history, you are destined to repeat its most painful lessons. Go back to 1929. Imagine the atmosphere. It was the roaring 20s. Shoeshine boys were giving stock tips. The elevator operator owned 3 houses. Everyone was a genius, because the market only went up. People bought stocks on 10% margin. That means for every dollar of their own money, they borrowed $9 from the broker. It felt like magic. If the stock went up 10%, they doubled their money. It was free money. But then came October. The market didn't just go down. It evaporated. When the market drops 10% and you are levered 10 to 1, you are wiped out. But it didn't stop there. The brokers called in the loans. People had to sell their homes, their jewelry, their furniture just to cover the hole in their accounts. We saw men who were captains of industry, men who had built railroads and steel mills, standing on the ledge of a building and stepping off into the void. They didn't die because they were stupid. They died because they were levered. They could not handle the swing. They had engineered a life that could only survive in sunshine, and when the rain came, they drowned. Now, look at the biology of it. Why do we do this? Why do we take these risks? Your brain is not designed for the modern financial system. Your brain is designed for the savannah. It is designed to survive a world where resources are scarce and the future is uncertain. In the caveman days, if you saw a pile of food, you ate it immediately. There was no benefit to saving it for 30 years from now because the meat would rot or a bigger animal would take it. We are hardwired for immediate consumption. We are hardwired to grab what we can, right now. This is hyperbolic discounting. We value the dopamine hit of a purchase today infinitely more than our financial freedom 10 years from now. When you sign the papers for that loan, your amygdala, the lizard part of your brain, lights up. You get the reward immediately. You get the car. You get the house. You get the status. The pain of paying it back is pushed into the abstract future. It feels like someone else's problem, but it isn't someone else's problem. It is the problem of your future self, and you are selling him into slavery to satisfy a momentary itch. Consider a modern scenario, a story that plays out in every suburb in America today. Look at a young dentist. He is smart. He went to school for 8 years. He makes a high income. He feels he deserves the good life. So, he buys a house at the very top of his approval limit. He leases to German luxury cars. He sends his children to private schools he cannot quite afford. He has a high income, but he has no wealth. He is running on a treadmill that is set to the maximum speed. Then, a recession hits. People stop getting cosmetic dentistry. They only come in for emergencies. His income drops by 30%, but his debt does not drop. The bank does not care about the recession. The bank demands its pound of flesh on the first of the month, every month. The dentist burns through his small cash savings in 3 months. In month 4, he is sweating. In month 5, he is selling the cars at a loss. In month 6, he is facing foreclosure. He goes from being a pillar of the community to a financial ruin in half a year. Why? Because he was levered. He had no margin of safety. He mistook income for wealth, and he mistook credit for money. The internal enemy here is not the bank. The bank is just a tool, like a saw. If you use a saw correctly, you can build a house. If you use it incorrectly, you cut off your hand. The predator is you. The predator is your own envy. You see your neighbor with the new boat, and your ancient brain screams that you are falling behind in the status hierarchy. Evolution punishes those who fall behind. If you were the lowest status male in the tribe, you didn't mate, and your genes died out. So, you have a deep, visceral panic when you see others succeeding. You feel you must keep up. You buy things you don't need, with money you don't have, to impress people you don't even like. This is the definition of insanity. You are willing to trade your future liberty for a momentary feeling of importance. You act as if the appearance of wealth is the same as the reality of wealth. It is not. In fact, they are often inversely correlated. The man driving the Ferrari is often less wealthy than the man walking down the street, because the man walking still has his money, while the man in the Ferrari has sent his money to Maranello. I cannot promise you will be rich if you avoid debt. Being rich requires a combination of industry, opportunity, and longevity. But I can promise you that if you stay out of debt, no banker can ever take your keys. No banker can take your house. No banker can take your dignity. That is a position of strength. That is the position of the Sleep Well Standard. This concept is about radical debt elimination. It is about removing fragility from your life. When you have no payments, a recession is not a threat. It is an opportunity. When the world goes to hell and everyone else is selling their assets at fire sale prices because they have to raise cash to pay their debts, you can stand there with your pile of cash and buy $1 for 50 cents. You become the liquidity provider. You move from being the victim of the cycle to the master of the cycle. But you can only do this if you have no debt. If you are drowning in payments, you are just another victim waiting to be washed away. So how do you do this? You must attack your loans with the ferocity of a drowning man seeking air. You must look at that interest rate and understand what it means. It is a chain around your neck. Start with the highest interest rate. Kill it. Pour every spare dollar into it. Do not go out to dinner. Do not buy new clothes. Do not go on vacation. You are in a war for your freedom. Once that first debt is gone, take the money you were paying on it and attack the next one. It is a snowball. It gains momentum. And as you pay it down, you will feel a physical weight lifting off your shoulders. You will breathe easier. The food will taste better. The sun will feel warmer. This is the psychological dividend of solvency. You must invert the algebra of your life. Einstein called compound interest the eighth wonder of the world. He who understands it, earns it. He who doesn't, pays it. Right now, If you are in debt, you are on the wrong side of the equation. You are the fuel for someone else's compounding machine. You are working hours of your life to pay for the time of the banker. You must flip the script. You want to be the one collecting the interest, not paying it. Think about the math of a car loan. You buy a car for $30,000. You finance it over 6 years. By the end, you have paid $40,000, and the car is worth $10,000. You have successfully turned $40,000 of hard-earned capital into $10,000 of scrap metal. This is wealth destruction on a massive scale. If you cannot pay cash for the car, you cannot afford the car. Drive a beater, who cares? The only people who care are people whose opinions should not matter to you. This requires an indifference to opulence. You must cultivate a voluntary frugality. Wealth is a fraction. The numerator is what you earn. The denominator is what you spend. It is much easier to increase your wealth by decreasing the denominator than by increasing the numerator. If you learn to be happy with a simple life, your threshold for FU money is much lower. If you need $100,000 a year to be happy, you need a massive pile of capital to be free. If you are happy with $40,000, you can be free much sooner. Cultivate a taste for reading. Reading is cheap. A library card is free. The wisdom of the ages is available to you for nothing. Cultivate a taste for walking. It is good for your heart and costs nothing. Expensive hobbies are a tax on the stupid. They are a way for society to reclaim money from people who do not understand its value. Now, let us walk through the minefield of smart mistakes. The first is the fallacy of smart leverage. This is the idea that you can borrow money at 4% and invest it at 8% and pocket the difference. It looks like free money on a spreadsheet. But the spreadsheet does not account for volatility. The market does not go up in a straight line. It zigs and zags. And as Keynes said, the market can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent. Imagine you borrow to invest in a sure thing. The sure thing drops 20% due to some geopolitical panic. You get a margin call. You have to put up more cash. You don't have it. The broker sells your position at the bottom. You lose everything. 2 weeks later, the market recovers and goes to new highs. You were right about the direction, but you were wrong about your durability. You were right, and you still went broke. That is the tragedy of leverage. Then there is the credit card hacking nonsense. You think you are beating the system for points. You think you are getting a free flight to Hawaii. Do you see the skyscrapers the banks build? Do you see the marble floors and the mahogany desks? They build those with the money of people who thought they were smarter than the actuaries. The credit card companies have data on millions of people. They know exactly how to manipulate your spending behavior. They know that when you use a card, you spend 15% to 20% more than when you use cash. The pain of parting with cash is visceral. You feel it. The swipe of a card is painless. It is an abstraction. So you spend more, you chase the points, and you lose the war. You are picking up pennies in front of a steamroller. And finally, the social signaling trap. Buying the big house to impress the in-laws. This is a hamster wheel with no exit. There is always a bigger house. There is always a newer car. There is always a more exclusive club. If your self-worth is tied to these things, you are doomed to perpetual misery. You are running a race you cannot win. The only way to win is to not play. Step off the track. Define your own success. Success is staying out of jail. Success is staying out of debt. Success is having the time to read and think and spend time with people you actually like. Let me synthesize this for you. It is remarkable how much long-term advantage people like us have gotten by trying to be consistently not stupid instead of trying to be very intelligent. There are a lot of smart people out there trying to be brilliant. They are trying to time the market, pick the next apple, use complex derivatives. They are working very hard to be smart. We just try to avoid the obvious disasters. We avoid debt. We avoid leverage. We avoid moral turpitude. We avoid addiction. If you just avoid the things that ruin you, the math of compounding takes care of the rest. It is a negative art. It is about what you don't do. Here is the golden rule. Spend less than you make. Always, no exceptions. If you make minimum wage, spend less than minimum wage. If you make $1 million, spend less than $1 million. Invest the difference. Buy wonderful businesses and hold them forever. Do not interrupt the compounding. Do not sell because the market is down. Do not sell because the market is up. Just sit. Sitting is the hardest thing to do. Pascal said that all of humanity's problems stem from man's inability to sit quietly in a room alone. The same is true for investing. You feel the need to do something. You feel the need to act, but action is usually the enemy of returns. The big money is not in the buying and the selling, but in the waiting. Go find a simple life. Complexity is a breeding ground for error. Keep your financial life so simple that you can explain it to a 12-year-old. I have cash, and I have stocks in good companies. That is it. No options, no futures, no margin, no crypto, no hedge funds. Just simple ownership of productive assets. Embrace the boredom. If you are looking for excitement, go to the racetrack. Go skydiving. Do not look for excitement in your investment portfolio. Your portfolio should be boring. It should be like watching paint dry. It should be like watching grass grow. If it is exciting, you are doing it wrong. You are gambling, not investing. You are going to die. That is the final reality. When you are old and looking back, you will not regret that you didn't buy the fancier car. You will not regret that you didn't have the bigger house. You will regret the time you spent worrying about money. You will regret the stress of debt. You will regret the freedom you traded for things. So reclaim your freedom now. It is never too late to start. But you must start today. Cut the cards. Sell the car. Downsize the house. Do whatever you have to do to get to the point where you owe nothing to anyone. When you stand on your own 2 feet, with no debt and money in the bank, you can look the world in the eye and say no. And that is the greatest power money can buy. The power to say no, the power to walk away, the power to be free. The path is simple. It is not easy, but it is simple. The crowd is running toward the cliff, fueled by debt and envy. You must turn around and walk the other way. It will feel lonely at first. People will think you are strange. Let them. In 20 years, when they are still running on the hamster wheel, sweating and stressed, you will be sitting in the shade, watching your dividends roll in, free and clear. That is the prize. Stay out of debt. Wait, the money will come.